Right then, guys, welcome to episode 3 of the In the Trenches podcast. Today, I'm with Trey. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I've kind of been watching your story over the last couple of years. Chatting to you on and off. I've been watching you. You truly are in the trenches, doing some amazing work. So, thank you for taking the time, and welcome to the episode.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. Yeah, I noticed. You interviewed our top sales rep Jeremy, and I was just like, man, I loved the approach that you had, and so I reached out and I was like, dude, like, let me know if you want to interview me too. Like, I liked that interview. Let me see if I can get one too. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think a lot of people watching this probably already know your story, but for those who don't, quick 5-minute summary. How did you get where you are today? What made you get into it? Specifically, the main thing that I'm looking for is I think speaking about your faith through growing up is important, because I think that's a big separation for you. And then also a key point when you switched from agency to coaching and consulting, and why you did that.
Yeah, man, a lot of questions there. So I think I'll just hit like the one you ended off with, like moving from agency to coaching. It's just more scalable. Yeah. It's just like I don't want to be an employee to like 20 businesses. And I just find that, like, unless you have an incredibly powerful pull and personal brand, that like you end up being that way. I think a lot of the agency space is that way. And it works. It's a good cash flow machine. But I just wanted to build a business where, to be honest, like my presence is what pays versus like a set of deliverables. And when you run a coaching business the right way and you tell your story the right way online and you create that relationship with your audience, they'll just pay for proximity. And to me, that's just really attractive. I think it's like, it feels nice that like people would pay just to learn more from me. I like that element of it. And I also like the element of just like legitimately seeing people's lives changed, because with agency work, it's like, a business is a very complex set of systems. The agency work, you come in and you add one additional system to a very complex set of systems. Whereas in coaching, for me, especially business coaching, I was able to approach somebody's business from a holistic place and like adjust the entire thing down to the person's mentality and how they're thinking, their daily routines and everything. And so in that way, I just found that it was like more impactful, more scalable and everything. A lot of people think that agency work is more tangible, but I think through frameworks and through like very clear guidance that you give people, I found coaching to actually be literally more valuable, more tangible in every single possible way. And like, every business owner at some point, like if they're worth their weight, like pays a lot of money to be in the right room and learn from the right person or something. And it's just how it works. And so to me, it's just, it literally feels more tangible than agency work, because agency work just felt like I had a bunch of bosses versus like a bunch of people that I was really leading,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think with coaching, you get to build like a tribe as well. Like people, I mean, you look at all of your students, I'm sure it's like part of your tribe, and I know you coach them with a lot more than just business, as you said. You said something there that I want to touch on. So you said the way you tell your story online. Yep. You made a post recently pretty much calling out like all the big guys in the space who have their stories and things. This is what they're actually doing, which makes a lot of sense. And so how would you explain to someone your story if they just discovered you using somewhat of that framework?
Yeah, well, I'll start with like, like the team and I are looking at like where the industry is going and everything. And we're looking at like the mechanisms that people are preaching, like webinar funnels or ads or shout outs or appointment setting or whatever. And these are all, don't get me wrong, great mechanisms. Like they all work very well. Obviously the results are there, but everybody that really lasts, they create open doors for viewers to create relationships psychologically with the person. And the best way to do that is by crafting a story that represents who you are and why you do what you do today. And then actually helps people, for the same reason that people line up for their favorite like Marvel movie, or they love like Captain America or something, is the same reason that they will love you and your brand, right? And in that way, you create a new level of pull. And there's actually, there's like, if you look at like Pixar's development process for their movies, it's all the same. It's the exact same. Most of the time, in most movies actually that people love, there's like, look at Star Wars, for example. It's everything was good, and then this happened, which sent me on a journey, and I had to learn all these things, and now I've arrived here, and I'm going to give you the lessons that I've learned in that journey that was sparked by something that was outside of my control. And so if you look at my story, it's actually exactly that. And for most people it is, even if the thing outside of your control was you just found how to make money online on the internet and you got obsessed, that's fine. or you got into a fitness journey because you felt overweight and depressed, like whatever that point is, you should tell people that. So for me, it's like, obviously for those who don't know my story, it was like, I grew up well off, like my parents did very well for themselves and everything. But for the first time that I ever saw at risk was like during a house fire. And during that house fire, I was actually at the time a wedding photographer, lost all my gear, and had no money coming in. My parents couldn't run their business because they were busy. I mean, house fire is an incredibly stressful and intense thing. Mixing with that, my mom already had bipolar and depression, and my dad was already biologically, I guess, like prone, you know what I mean, to that sort of stuff. They were both pretty much out for the count. So for like 8 to 12 months, I had a great relationship with my parents, still do, but they were out for the count pretty much. So I just kind of had to figure out like, okay, I wanted to bring something to the table. I wanted to figure something out. And so I heard this quote, and I heard like from Jim Rohn and all these people, like, your knowledge is your most valuable asset. So I started selling a wedding photography course online. And that's when everything changed for me. And this is a true story completely. B, it is crafted in such a way that gets people into our way of thinking. And C, obviously we help people start the same business. So we've got 11 clients now that have gotten to $1 million a year selling coaching online. And like, in part, that story helps motivate them to realize like, oh, wow, I might have something worth selling online as well. And so it's figuring out how to tell a story that is true, something you can like stake your name to, like, this is why I do what I do today, but also relates to what you do, And like, I've found, like, it's funny, a lot of people at the very, very top, like, they literally have artificially created a story that just fundamentally isn't true. And so I don't believe that. And I've gotten to know some of these people, and it's just like, there's elements here that are just completely not true. It's like the rappers that like pretend they came from the ghetto or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know. You got to draw a line somewhere. But in my opinion, yeah, building a high value story is one of the things that I think we do really well in our program. So why our students go on to do so well. It's why they often don't have their offers compared to their competitors' offer, because it's like, it's not a deliverable thing. It's just, we have 400 people that pays anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 for our programs. And so it's like, that's mostly because of my story. It's mostly because of my brand. So it's powerful force.
Absolutely. I mean, I think just like getting to know you over the last couple of years, one thing that I've learned from you that stuck, like, out of everything, is building goodwill at scale.
Mm-hmm.
That quote, I think, resonates a lot with me, and I'm sure with others. Would you agree that like the personal stories that we tell online are a lot more crafted than people, I think, tend to notice? Because people think it's by accident. Do you think they're very crafted?
100%. It's like in that 5 to 10 minute moment on a sales call when you've said, yeah, I think you're a good fit, let's move forward, here's what we do. Like, in that moment, you give them everything that they want to hear. You know what I mean? So there's going to be elements of everybody's story that like are just blatantly irrelevant. They don't necessarily take away from the story, but they're just irrelevant. Like, another example is like, I'm sure you know Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, like his story of like the potato gun thing. That actually wasn't his first business. He had like 6 before that, but it's the one that best relates to his audience and their needs, right? So he just talks about it. You know what I mean? And so like, it's like, yeah, I discovered the power of information products and building funnels online because I sold this potato gun course, accidentally kind of stumbled into it and it did. And so, I don't know, to me, it's like, Jordan Belfort talks about telling the truth well. So tell the truth and the elements of the truth that need to be said, and find ways to create, like, especially if you believe in what you sell, it is your duty to find a way to influence people that your way of doing things is better. And there's no better way to do that than stories.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. And speaking of beliefs, one thing I wanted to get your opinion on is obviously when it comes to, putting your brand out there and storytelling, for those of you who are listening to this, trying to build a brand at scale to sell some coaching offer or agency, one of the big keys I've noticed is polarization. Because if you can get people to relate to you heavily, it's major. Mm-hmm. You came out and you were very transparent with your faith and the fact that you're a Christian and things. And that is something I think a lot of people, just the culture we live in, are scared to do. Mm-hmm. And so the question that I have is, do you think you've made more or less sales because of it?
I don't know, probably less, to be honest. I also think, like, not to get into the spiritual nature of like the world and everything, but I also do think that when you believe in the God that I believe in, you're open about it, that you have disadvantages that people don't see on the front end. They don't see the spiritual warfare that's going on behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I honestly think I've definitely made way less money, but I think the money that I've made is more sure, if that makes sense. And I think it will be more lasting because I'm not selling anything. in order to achieve it. You know, I'm not getting rid of any part of myself in order to achieve the things that I'm achieving. And so, yeah, I just think, you know, if you believe something to be true and you sacrifice that belief in pursuit of a worldly goal like money, you will always regret it. And so it wasn't even necessarily, sure, it might have been a play, like it might have been like a play of like trying to attract more Christians, but like also whether it was or whether it wasn't, it was just like I refused to disconnect parts of myself for the growth of another part. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like if in order to run a marathon, I had to train every single day for 60 days and totally stop the business, I wouldn't be willing to do that. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to grow all areas in the same way that I'm not willing to throw away my beliefs for the sake of, you know, coming off a certain way online. So just trying to make sure that I stay a holistic person. I don't know. I just think it's the long-term play, because I think inevitably if and when we start to get a hell of a lot more attention online, because right now I've been so in the trenches, just serving our students, building a great program, building my team, doing the back end work. You know, in 2023, we're like starting a new YouTube channel. We're going to try to get it like above 100,000 subscribers, try to get it to 1 million in the next 3 or 4 years, just talking about like broader marketing and sales topics. That's the goal, business, self-development, all that. I think when that time comes, then there will be, for the viewer, this actual person on the other side. You know what I mean? And that's important to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was a play of any sort. I think it was just you being who you actually are, which most people are not. And that's often the biggest source of originality that you can get.
Yeah, totally.
So we'll speak about your plans to scale, because I have some questions on what you're doing on the back end. But the
Yeah.
last time we spoke, you shaved your head.
Yep.
And I asked you why. And you said
Mhm.
you did it because you weren't happy with who you were and you need to change. It's a very dramatic change to make. So walk me through why, what change you made, and if it was useful to actually go and put yourself through that. Right then, quick one, guys. I've just finished editing this podcast now, and wow, me and Trey really do go into a bunch of topics towards the end, and there's so much value here. I honestly wish I had this when I got started. So I wanted to record this quick little clip to let you know that, so that you stay to the end, because it would be a shame if you missed all of that value. And speaking of value, I also wanted to let you know that I've gone ahead and opened up 5 calendar slots for you and I to get on a one-to-one Zoom call. Now, this Zoom call is going to be with me only. It's not going to be with my team or with anyone else. And basically on these calls, I just want to hear where you're at the moment and what problems you have in your business, because I know a lot of you are also running agencies and consulting businesses. And I'm just going to try and provide as much value as I can and try and solve those problems with you. And in return for that, I just want some feedback on this podcast as a whole, as well as my YouTube channel, as I'm trying to grow it over the rest of the year. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and put the link to my calendar in the description. It will be the first link. I'm only taking 5 calls, so if I was you, I would go ahead and do it quickly, because I think it will fill up quite quickly. And with that being said, tons of value here, so I hope you enjoy, and let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think shaving my head was a little bit of just like a spontaneous thing, and I also have a personality type. I tend to assign meaning where there is none, because I just like finding meaning in things. I think I probably just wanted to shave my head, to be honest. But also, yeah, it did represent some form of change, because like, you know, I believe that life is seasons, you know, and like I had one season where I was this like penthouse baller with a Jaguar in a nice apartment. This is the season where I'm in a corner office and living a very humble lifestyle, not doing much at all, actually, other than work. And yeah, it happened to adjust right around the time when I shaved my head, get engaged, move into this place, about to get married, getting married in like 30 days. I'm gonna marry, like that's gonna be a new season. I'm a big believer that life presents itself in seasons, and you have to discover like what that lesson of that season is and fully absorb it and integrate it. Maybe a lesson of the last season was like, I think probably like what it means to scale the business internally was, in order to get to $1 million a year, I had to be a resilient lone wolf, extremely resilient and driven and obnoxiously constant. But in order to get to like an 8-figure company, like getting to $10 million a year, like I have to rewire, because it's like, and the things that got me here are not what's going to get me there. And I have to completely change who I am. And like, meaning I have to actually lead a company now. I'm not a solo person anymore. And working with people, like, honestly, I had to do what I did, which is like get to $1 million a year pretty much as a one-man show. But in order to get to that next level, now I have to learn how to deal with people and work and trust them with the pie, you know? like for the first time ever, people on my team actually have like a stake in my business, which is a new thing. You know, I've never done that before. And so getting to that next level, I think is, yeah, like shaving my head represented to me, just like moving into like a new season of life entirely. Like to be honest, like I didn't think I was going to get married until I was like 30 even. Like I even with my faith and my values, like, yeah, I literally wasn't going to have sex with any women. I was going to I was going to stay a virgin, not get married, and just work my business. That wasn't the goal. But I fell in love. I like this girl and like I trust her. So, and when I shaved my head, it was just kind of like, yeah, like I'm letting go of old plans. Yeah.
And moving forward. Got it. I love what you said there with life comes in seasons. I think you actually recommended me the Jim Rohn book with seasons, right?
Oh, I've recommended that book tons of times. I'm sure if somebody recommended you that book, it was probably me. Yeah, it's a very hidden book. Yeah.
One of the best books I've read. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you spoke about this concept of identifying seasons. And so the next question I want to lead on with is everything that I've done business-wise, and I've just started to learn, everything just comes back to mindset. You know, the tactics are just futile. And do you believe entrepreneurs are born, or do you think they are taught?
They get taught. I 100% think they're taught. And I also don't think entrepreneur is anything. It's not, there's not a common set of traits that makes an entrepreneur. I think you can take who you are and turn it into an entrepreneurial thing, no matter who you are. In the same way that if you gave anybody a paintbrush and a canvas, they'd make something, even if they don't identify as an artist, even if they've never painted anything before, what they put onto that canvas is ultimately a representation of them somehow. Even if they're like an awkward middle-aged man that has never touched a brush, but like whatever ends up on the canvas, that represents them. In the same way that your business will always represent you in some fashion, I think anybody can be entrepreneurial. If it's $100,000 a year, $10,000 a year, $10 million a year, whatever it is, if you're selling products and services, or you're selling information products, or you're into crypto, I don't know. I mean, everybody can be entrepreneurial. And I fundamentally believe that. I do not think entrepreneurs are born. I do think probably if there's one trait that most entrepreneurs have, like I think I was raised, especially by my father, maybe less by my mother, but my father especially kind of had like a who makes the rules anyway kind of a mentality. Like, you know, the rules are made up by people not a lot smarter than us, to quote Steve Jobs. I love that quote. And it's like, you can do whatever you want, you know. My mom made me more rigid. Like when I decided like I was gonna like not finish my homeschool and everything, and like was going to go into business all the way, like she was super upset. And obviously because like she had an idea of what she wanted my future to look like. So yeah, I think probably made more than born, for sure. I've seen, you know, I see so little correlation of the backgrounds of the people that I see succeeding in business, like completely different backgrounds every single time. There's no correlation, no common denominator. It's just a choice that somebody makes.
What similarities do you see in people? Because there must be some trends of success in terms of those who succeed and those who don't.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is just like an intense sacrifice. They have no romantic attachment to the things that are in their life right now. They're willing to throw it on the flame immediately if required. And that's what people don't quite understand about building a business is it's you will grow to the level that you've sacrificed. So I haven't sacrificed that much. Like we're gonna do maybe $3 million next year. Like I'm a little baby, tiny little shark. You know what I mean? The guys at the top, that, you know, people do $100 million a year, $500 million a year, billions of dollars a year. Like those people, they literally nothing else exists in their mind other than their business. You know what I mean? It's just like they're obsessed to a degree that I haven't even been able to comprehend in my life yet. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I just think, you know, like literally just, I think sacrifice and decisiveness. Like they will immediately, if something's in the way, they'll sacrifice it immediately. No question. No question. And that's something I've probably to some extent lacked in what might have been needed if I wanted to be doing like $10 million a year right now. Like, honestly, if I wanted to do $10 million a year right now, I would have never, ever initiated a relationship with this girl. Never. But I also know that one of my core values is that I want to be married and I want to have a family. Like, I knew that I wanted to do that. And I ended up meeting this girl immediately. Like, you know, I'm not the kind of guy to be all about like love at first sight, but I just got along so well. And we were immediate best friends. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to change my life plan a little bit because I've always wanted to be married. And sure, I could travel and meet another girl like this, but like, I don't know, there's something nice that like we grew up in the same area. We have a very similar set of beliefs. We were both homeschooled. There's all kinds of like core similarities in our worldview, which is very important to me. I was like, all right, I'll slow things down to get this. And so, but if I had a higher tolerance for sacrifice, very much would have thrown that relationship aside and said, like, look, I love you, but like, I've got this thing, and we'd probably be an 8-figure company right now, you know? But yeah, just sacrifice, and then decisiveness, like knowing exactly what you want and making very clear, clean decisions over and over again that get you there.
Amazing. I love that. We'll get more into the business things, and I definitely want to get some of your feedback and intuition on relationships, because you are going through a season. I think a lot of people, at least in our space, are. So it'd be good to get that. But before we do, I want to speak more about Trey. And the reason for that is, I think you said in a YouTube video, podcast, or somewhere recently, that you actually take pride in the fact that you're still in Indiana, because it's not Dubai or London or one of these flashy places, because a lot of people seem to have this view that at a certain point you have to be around money in order for you to continue being motivated. I mean, you're doing, I think you said 200, 300K a month. At a certain point, you must get to a stage where it's like, I don't need more money, especially if you're in a place like you are. And so, number one, how have you been able to push when you don't need that, money to actually do what you want? I'm sure you've got to that point where an extra 20, 30K doesn't make much difference. But secondly, what do you say to the people who believe genuinely that they have to be surrounded by wealth in order to keep leveling themselves up? Because you've just done it very differently.
Yeah, I dug deep and made my own mental space. You know what I mean? I think if you rely on your environment, that's weak, in my opinion. It's just weak. And I wanted to have a very holistic bottom-up growth. I could live in the slums of Africa, or I can live in Indiana, or I can live in LA, or I can live in London, wherever, and I'm going to build a business. You know what I mean? And so for me, obviously your environment has a huge play. Like, and when Lily and I get married, we are more than likely moving to California, probably Malibu. So it's gonna be fun. Yeah. And I 100%, like, I made the decision that I want to get my business to a much, much higher level and start playing at a bigger level when I was out in California. So I agree that there's like certain energies to certain areas and everything. And like, I love like the concept of vibrations. People vibrate at certain levels, and there's certain areas that have that vibration 100%. But I can make my own freaking vibration. Like, you walk in my apartment, you feel that this is, despite it being a humble little apartment, this is where some very real work happens, and you feel that. And people have told me that they feel that, and I like that. So it's because I create that environment for myself. And so, yeah, I just, I think you definitely need a good environment. Maybe if you can't create it yourself, but like for me, I don't know, I created it myself. Honestly, straight up, I just dug deep, created my own headspace. But then again, at the same time, I'm telling Lily, like, look, like when we get married, like we're going to go into like a $10,000 a month rent penthouse. Like, once this season is over, I'm going to go back into, like, I think 2020 Trey was the hungriest he's been. You know what I mean? I got to a certain level, and then now I'm getting married, and like I've got a fat amount of money in the bank, and like, especially for growing up in Indiana, which, to your point, you know what I mean? Maybe I need that new environment. But yeah, so we're going to find a beautiful spot. I'm just going to push myself again. So yeah, I think it's like 50% environment, 50% your headspace, but I would rather rely on headspace than just environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how have you avoided the trap of the laptop travel lifestyle, and falling into all of that? It's
harder to run a business when you're doing that. It's really hard to travel all the time and run it. That's what people don't understand. Like, they think they're in a business, you could travel everywhere. But it's just such a broken way of thinking. Like, I can't do any good work if I'm moving. I need to stay right where I'm at. Focus. You know what I mean? Every time, like, getting from $0 to $10,000 a month, parents' basement. You know what I mean? 10,000 to 50, moved out, got this beautiful house. Like, just one. Like, this is my same desk. I've done everything I've done for my business on this desk. With this, I have literally bought one keyboard 4 years ago. Same keyboard. Like, I don't. You just need consistency. Consistency compounds. It breeds results. And so for me, laptop lifestyle, like, dude, if you live in laptop lifestyle, good for you. But at some point, a competitor is going to crush you because you're not actually focused on growing a business. And I don't care, obviously, like, I'm going to take quarterly breaks. Me and my wife are going to take quarterly breaks really excited. We're going to go like Hawaii. We're going to go like, Cancun, do all this stuff fun, but it's going to be timed. It's going to be intentional, and I'm not going to work during these times. I'm going to have an office, an environment where I can get into that headspace and work clean. Because otherwise, yeah, laptop lifestyle doesn't scale. It's so stupid. I don't understand how people do it personally. Yeah.
I got it. Do you think it's just because a lot of people fall into the trap of not actually wanting to build a business, but just wanting to make money so that they can do these things, and then they realize it's not very fulfilling until they've got there?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody has their own motivation. If your motivation is to travel, it's some good fuel. I just think that any fuel other than building cool stuff is short-term fuel, honestly. Like if you look at the highest players in any industry, they take pride in the work that they do just because they love the work that they do. Like SpaceX, Elon Musk. Like nobody told him he had to do that. He just decided one day he wanted to, and he takes a ton of pride in doing it. And I think that's the ultimate fuel, it's just like you love what you do for the sake of doing it, and you take so much pride in it, and it's just like you see it as an extension of yourself. And because you have the self-image of somebody that builds great things, and you then end up building a great thing, and like that in of itself is enough motivation for me, And so yeah, I definitely, like, don't get me wrong, like I love watches, cars, all that stuff. It's cool. Like I've driven some incredible cars that like nobody, and some I haven't even posted, I haven't even shared. I just, you know what I mean? Like I just bought it because I wanted it, and I like that. Like nobody will know, and I want it. I like it that way, because it's not for the business. It's literally just for me. So yeah, I think there's that. But yeah, no, I just think you just want to build cool things. Like that's the ultimate motivation. I think it's just to build cool stuff. And like, I just think entrepreneurship is like one of the best personal development decisions you could ever make. Like for me, I get so excited at like,
cut out.
Oh, did it cut out?
Yeah.
You lose me? Hello? How about now?
Still cut out?
Testing 1, 2. Are you sure it's not on?
There we go. I think it's back.
Okay, cool. That's weird. I didn't change anything.
All good.
Testing 1, 2. Yeah, it says it's working on my end. All right, we'll keep going.
You said a point there.
Yeah.
You said entrepreneurs are the most self-aware people. I truly, truly believe that as I've gone through this.
Mm-hmm.
And talking of self-aware, one thing that I do want to ask you and kind of get your feedback and perspective on is at your level, and as you said, that 0 to 10K when you're in your mom's basement, do you believe you're working less now than you did then?
Again, I think it's seasons. I think there's been seasons where I work way less than I did then, but then there's also seasons where it's like I'm working like a dog. You know what I mean? And like this is one of those seasons, like I'm working very hard. Every single day I work 8 to 10 hour days, locked in, focused, building momentum for the future, hiring the right team members on, making massive mistakes, fixing the mistakes later, like just in the trenches, like your podcast, but then there's also seasons where it's like, yeah, it's the easiest thing on the planet. Like I just think, once you have a really great offer that has a really great message behind it, you've got a great traffic source and a great sales process, clients are happy. It's like, there's just not much to do for a season. But also, like, I also believe, like, law of entropy, you're either growing or you're dying, I believe in very clearly assigned times where you're not going to work. You don't just decide, oh, I think I can take the foot off the brake now. It's more like, like I take quarterly breaks. I don't work Sundays. So quarterly breaks for a week. I don't work Sundays. And so because of that, like I've got a pretty good structure. But I think like 2021 was the first time I built like a sales team that like just killed it. And we were doing like $150,000, $200,000 a month, and I was doing basically nothing. And that was a weird feeling. I had to figure out what to do at that time. I invested that time into my relationship, to be honest. Like I want a beautiful marriage. I want a beautiful family. These are things that I want for my future is that. And so I was like, all right, I could take this time to, I think probably the highest value task that I could have done with that time is like build a brand new product for the business. Like, which we're now doing. We're about 50% done with Consulting Blueprint 2.0, which is just going to be an insane product. I could have done that. or I could have invested in my marriage, my future marriage. Because at that time I decided I was going to get married. We were engaged and everything. And so, yeah, I definitely coasted for the first time in like 4 years at that point, for probably like 4 or 5 months. And I didn't make any major decisions. I didn't really change anything. And the bank account was growing by like 100 grand a month, basically 150 grand a month. So it was a cool feeling. But yeah, I also, on a business front, I regret that decision. On a marriage front, amazing decision. I could not have developed my relationship over there if I hadn't done that. You know what I mean? So you're always making, that's the thing is when you max yourself out in certain in the areas of your life, like fitness, relationships, business, whenever you pull your attention away for a moment, you incur massive loss in that other thing. And you just need to get used to like that's I think why the high earners in any space take a lot of self-awareness and they spend a lot of time thinking about where their attention is going, because their attention really is the most valuable asset. So yeah, I definitely, right now, this specific season, I'm working about as hard as I did when I was in my parents' basement, like working really hard.
Just the work has changed, like what you
work is
actually are
changed.
doing.
Work's completely changed. Yeah, it's gone from send out 30 messages a day, record a YouTube video, and call 3 people on LinkedIn, you know what I mean, to moving a sales rep up as a CMO, clarifying his roles within the company, creating a better profit and loss system for the business so we're clear on our numbers every single week, and building a product system that has a higher likelihood of people upgrading to higher tier services in the future. It's just, the work upgrades. Yeah.
I heard Sam Ovens say this recently as an objection, and he was talking about this concept that most people have this idea that coaches who coach because they can't do. And I think it's a really big fallacy that people have developed. And I wonder, if someone was to tell you that, how would you respond?
I think it's kind of funny. Like, yeah, I see exactly where you're coming from. Like when I look at this industry from the outside, I'm like, what the hell? But also, like, if you think, like, the thing is, it's a funny saying, but if you actually pick apart what each of the words mean, so coaching. So when I'm coaching somebody, what I'm giving them is like frameworks, strategies, tools, mechanisms to speed up their process. For coaches, okay, so coaches are people who are doing the same thing for their group of people, right? And when you break it down into what those words actually mean, it actually makes a lot of sense. But it's kind of funny. It's also very funny. It's like, it'd be like from a software perspective, I think it's hilarious. Like I get those comments on our reels and stuff, and I'm just like, it's so funny. Like I get it. Yeah. It's such and so I don't get upset about it. It's like, yeah, I'd probably do the same thing. I do think in general, like people are always looking for like chinks in the armor. You know what I mean? People are always looking for like ways to tear somebody down. It's like, whatever. Like I'm coasting. I'm chilling. It'd be like if somebody was into the NFT space and they'd be like, oh, you just sell JPEGs all day, don't you? And it's like, yeah, I guess so. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing. It's just funny. I no part of me is like, oh, they don't understand. I don't have like illusions of grandeur in that way. Like I get that what I do to some people, it looks on the surface a little strange. It's fine. I don't care. We're building an incredible company. My team loves working here. Our students love us. So I'm gonna keep going. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Let's go now into the team building part, because that seems like it's a big focus of what you're doing now, which makes sense at your level. So 2 things that I want to kind of bundle into there. First, I know when we spoke a couple of years back, I know you've gone through a couple of teams where it didn't work out for whatever reason. And so I'm wondering how you didn't kind of develop shell shock going through that experience, and you kept hiring even though—
Because it was always my fault. Like every single time it was my fault. It was my fault for bringing them on in the first place because they weren't a good fit, or it was my fault for not figuring out how to structure the role in a way that we both benefited from every single time. So like, yeah, I no shell shock, it's just lessons,
Lessons. Beautiful way to look at life.
Yeah.
And how are you building a business where not all roads diverge back to you? Because in the coaching space, that seems to be the end goal, because as you know, they're difficult to sell if you get to that level, if you are everything. And I think it's a struggle a lot of people have, because you are the face of everything. So how have you thought through solving that problem, if you have it all?
I mean, I have a little bit. Obviously a majority of the time when somebody joins our mastermind, it's like 36 grand for the year. Like you're very serious about getting to 7 figures. and we're going to work with you to make sure that happens, help you build your team and everything. Like those people, they want to work with Trey. If they paid that rate and then I gave them like one of my team members, they'd be pretty upset. So understandable. But at the same time, you know, for me, like, I just think it's like giving credit where credit's due. Like you interviewed my sales rep, Jeremy, and he's been an incredible, you know, player in my company. And I think I've just got the personality type where I'm like willing to offload responsibility, or not responsibility, but credit. I'm willing to offload credit. Like there's a case to be made that Jeremy wouldn't be anything if it weren't for me. But there's also plenty of case to be made that our company wouldn't be anywhere near where it is without Jeremy. So it's like, I'm not about to, as the leader of a company, take credit for something that would take one of my team members off of a pedestal. Because in a way, especially for men, I've found they want credit. And I'm not
Yeah.
about to like let my ego get in the way of that. You know what I mean? If somebody's good at what they do, I would be stupid to not empower them to do it better and within my structure. Like, why not? So to me, it's less of like a conscious avoidance of not letting roads lead back to me, and more of like a just attracting incredible people and empowering them. And look, I mean, some of the people that rival me in the space, they churn team members like crazy. And like, you know, I even get this advice. It's so crazy, dude. Like this industry, like literally one of the pieces of advice that I was given in a mastermind that I paid 50 grand to be in was, he was like, yeah, you need to have a backup list of 30 sales reps at any given time because the churn is typically a year for a sales rep. And I'm like, what's wrong with the company that they only stay there for a year? Like what are they doing wrong? Like, why can't I just build a business where people actually want to stay here? So, you know, one of the things that I learned from one of my early mentors, his name's Blake, and he actually ran like one of the largest electric installation companies here in Indianapolis. So like Lucas Oil Stadium, which is like one of the biggest football like stadiums in the Midwest. He installed their electric, like he has a company about like 150 employees, they're multiple seven figure, I think like 8 figures in volume yearly. Just a cool guy, totally different industry. And this is why I love that book, Outsiders, or whatever it's called. It's like you apply things
Yes.
you learn from other industries to, and something I learned from him. I used to go to this weekly Bible study with him. There's small business owners in Indianapolis, basically. There's like 10, 15 guys. It's like 4 a.m. It was insane. And I met him, and he said a business owner is really just somebody who serves two groups of people. They serve their clients and they serve their team. That's what they do. And you can better serve them by having better vision and then building systems where they're benefited by being within your structure. And like full candid, like Jeremy came to me and was like, dude, I'm feeling a little burnt out. And I was like, all right, you're an A player. What do you want to do? Do you want to be CMO? Do you want to be CSO? Do you want to manage our books? What do you want to do? What excites you? And so I moved him up to CMO. So now he's going to be chief marketing officer. So outside of certain things that I know work consistently for the business, he's going to come up with more creative ways to get more bookings, and he's going to kill it. I know for a fact he's going to kill it, because it's not the skill, it's the character that I look for. It's the person that I look for. And I think because of my background, because of growing up in the Midwest and like having a very people oriented view on life, like I can read people like a book, and like, I think you would do this very well. So for me, it's not even consciously avoiding being all roads lead back to me. It's just, I have incredible people. Why not let them shine? You know what I mean?
Amazing. And now
Yeah.
bringing it down to people who are making their first, second, third hire,
Mhm.
and don't have, you know, some of the gravity around their business as you've worked very hard to build. What
Mhm.
character traits, like you said, are you looking for?
Start very top is just honesty. Like, you know, that's something you don't know if somebody has until a while of having the relationship. So every time you take on a hire, you're taking a risk. So honesty. Not to sound too spiritual, but just look at the fruits of the spirit. You know what I mean? Like, look at the fruits of the spirit. Like, go online sometime, look at fruits of spirit Bible, and all those. I'll look for those. Um, like, you can tell people by the fruits that they produce. So you can tell if somebody's a quality person by the fruits that their actions produce in their life. And so I'll look at like the relationships. Like, do they have toxic or good relationships? I'll look at like their health. I'll look at just these things that just signal that they are a quality person. You know, how many books have they read in the past year? You know what I mean? Do they take care of their health? You know what I mean? Like, these little things really signal to me that they're a high quality person. And I also generally try not to hire when somebody's in a massive transitional period in their life, because I've learned that the hard way. Like, you can have incredible talent, but because they go through transition, like their energy just isn't there. Um, and obviously they need the soft skills that the role entails. Like the soft skills come last on the list of things that I look for. Because you can train like Jeremy, like he probably didn't mention this in his interview with you, but he closed 0 out of 17 of the calls. I don't know if he said that or not, but when he first came on, 0 out of 17.
Yeah.
But I knew because of who he was that I could teach him sales. So I taught him sales, and now he's a beast, and he's probably better than me, you know? And so because of that, it's like, to me, it's the person. I hire for character, train for soft skills. If you want to know what you should look for in character, look for the fruits of the spirit in the Bible. And then also, just look at the people in your life that you have the best relationship with. What do you appreciate about them? Look at that. And then try and find that in the business world, you know? So
that's pretty opposing to like I've heard a lot of people in this space talk about like hire the absolute best in that space. And we're talking like soft skills. And I've usually found a lot of the best in the space, like their characters are usually not the absolute greatest. Obviously, you know, that's sometimes very different. Like I'm making assumptions. So do you believe in hiring to train as long as they've got the character
100%.
versus hiring the best and then
I hired to train
dealing with it?
I hired to train, and I hired to train because I have a gift of getting people out of their own way. I'm very good at that. I've done it for myself. I can do it for other people. And I can train them. And yeah, I'm a coach. You know what I mean? Like I've worked with 400 students. Like I know how to help people, especially with sales, because like that's part of my coaching anyway. So I have a bit of an advantage in that. I've helped hundreds of people learn how to sell. So that's not hard, right? So yeah, I hired to train. But in a way, you're not training. It's almost like, how I see it is like, say you buy a really high powered, this is how I view hiring. Say you buy a really high powered computer, and then it's already pre-built with all the power it needs. You just run a software on it. That software will run better. Hiring a good person is like high character, high integrity, motivated. They're a high powered computer. Training them on a soft skill in your company is just like running a software on it, right? So like for me, like I don't really need the software to be built. I can download software anytime. Just plug it in. I need a high character. That's, if there's a scarce resource, it's people that are just properly high character, devoted. And I think one of the things I look for as well is they don't need the spotlight. That's important, because if they need the spotlight and they need credit, like I'm not willing to give somebody credit when they need it. I give credit generously because they earned it. So anyway, yeah, that's how I see it. Like it's like having a high powered computer and you plug a software into it. I think but again, I had to grow my business, put a lot of money in the bank so that I had the safety net so I can do that. So for somebody who's just getting started, if you're just getting started and you're just trying to build a team, like, yeah, just use Upwork, use those, whatever, that's fine. Like I had to do the same thing. But like once I had some money in the bank and I had proof of concept, I knew where the business was going and everything, then it was time to look for high quality people and train them.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And as you were going through that, if someone was listening to this and they're feeling like they are in their own way, what's like your top ways? Because you mentioned that's like one of your superpowers. And I genuinely, just from like being around you, I do think that is like your superpower. And so what is like some quick advice you would give on how people can get out their own way?
It's very hard to get quick advice there, but if I had to summarize it, it'd be like, look at two things. So like look at your becauses and your I ams. So like, for example, to ground that, this happens like I am this way because whatever. Look at what you say after that. And if it's not empowering you and giving you a way out, then you need to challenge that belief. So like, I am bad at sales because I am shy. Okay. Who told you were shy? When did you pick that up? Like, at what point did that belief land in your head? And you're just like, oh, I've always been that way. When I hear somebody say that, I'm like, all right, dude, like continue to dig your own grave, because the reality is you're not a static being. And there's a lot of, I've had to debate I've debated like some friends, some close friends, even like my fiance sometimes. Like there's like certain things that like, it's just, to me, I just fully believe that somebody's completely fluid. I think that who they are changes over the years naturally. And if you're not in charge of that change, then it's just going to be subject to your environment, right? And so it's just being in charge of that change, because naturally you're going to evolve in a positive or negative direction. Well, who knows if you're not in charge of that, right? So you might as well be in charge of that process. So look at your becauses. So I am this way because X. Okay, look at that. Is it serving you? If it's not, change it. And it's going to be a conscious process of changing it for a season. But eventually it becomes subconscious, and eventually it'll show in your action, and eventually it will literally become true. You're no longer shy anymore because you decided for about 2 years to not be shy. And then you saw the results of being an outgoing person. That was me. Like, I was so introverted. Like, I was so scared of sales, so scared of coaching calls, so like scared of making videos, dude. Everything. Like, did not want to put myself out there. Here I am. I built a little mini empire around my ability to speak, basically. So it's just like, you know, you can learn anything. That's the first thing. And then like I said, I am statements in general. Like, whenever you say I am, hold up, like, be very careful with what you say after that, because whatever you say there, you're creating an anchor, and you want to make sure that that really serves you. You know, like, I am demotivated. That's a powerful thing to say, you know, or I
Yeah.
am not capable of, or whatever. It's a powerful thing to say, like, because what you believe about yourself, you typically act out. You know, it's our self-image. It's who we think we are. We then act out in our environment, and then we get the results that are in accordance with that image of ourselves. And so, you know, just, I didn't always think this stuff. You know what I mean? It was discovering this stuff that really helped me succeed as a business owner. But yeah, just some very baseline advice. I mean, that's, you know, we're considering actually launching a whole fleet of products in that direction. Once we get CB20 to selling $3 or $4 million a year, $5 million a year, we're thinking about releasing like some self-image and personal rewiring stuff, because it's like, it's huge. Every single student that succeeds with us, they're like, yeah, that's why I succeeded. Sales is great, marketing is great, offers great, but it's like, that's the stuff that I really needed to hear. So we're thinking about doing that too.
Do you believe just the culture that the world has created, it's more difficult to sell those products simply because everyone wants the magic pill? And that is like deep, hard work going through those realizations.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think our culture in general benefits from you feeling stuck, because then they can sell you solutions, you know,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So generally, yes. So yeah, yes, I would just say simply yes, but I would also say, like, my story is one of rewiring my self-image and then becoming this person. You know, I am a psychologically completely different individual than I was at 18, 19, just 3, 4 years ago, you know? And I'm going to continue to renew at every stage that is necessary. And I'll be a new person for every season that is necessary. Nowadays, you know, my affirmations used to look like the things I wanted to believe about myself were like, I'm good at sales. Now it's like, I can lead people well, and I'm great at identifying character and training. You know what I mean? And it's just like keeping a very fluid identity. So yeah, I think some people don't like that concept because it almost feels like, whoa, everything in my life is my fault. It's like, yeah, it is. Like, all the good, all the bad, it's all you. And they don't like, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. But yeah, if you can get somebody to see that this is, I think, the secret. If you can get somebody to see that realization that everything is their fault is actually a very empowering realization versus a scary realization, that's when I think you can really transform them.
Wow. A lot of really, really good knowledge. People would pay a lot of money for on this episode.
Yeah.
I know we're pressed for time, so I always like to end off each episode by asking 3 very rapid questions, and I ask every guest the same questions, just because it's really good to see the difference between people's perspectives. So, are you ready for the first one?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. So, what do you know now that you wish you had knew earlier?
What do I know that I wish I would have knew earlier? I think, I definitely wish I would have understood the concept of sacrifice. I'm hopping on with one of our mastermind clients here, Mr. Tag.
No problem.
Sacrifice, because like I believe that you can have it all, but I believe you have to sacrifice the all that you have right now so you can create a better all later. You know what I mean? And so people try and pull these things along with them, like pull their bad habits, pull their bad relationships, pull these things up the ladder with them, and it just makes the climb so much heavier. You know what I mean? So I wish I would have understood the concept of like true sacrifice, like 2 to 3 years of like putting everything on the line will change the rest of your life. You know what I mean? I think my 2 to 3 was like 19 or like 18 to 21. 22 has kind of been a little bit of a soft year for me in terms of the business front. Like, I've been getting married this year. It's like, honestly, it takes up most of my energy. It's just like that. Proud that we've even done over 7 figures this year. It's amazing. So that, but then once I'm married, I'm going to go into another season of sacrifice, and we're both very ready for that. I think the other thing I wish I would have known is like, just hit the people at the top, like to stop idolizing them so much. Like they're just doing the things that you already know. They're just doing them consistently, and there's nothing special about them.
Just
And
humans.
just humans, dude. And I've met all of them. Like I there's very few people in this industry that I haven't like sat down over Zoom for a few hours on end and had some very serious conversations. It's like, yep, it's, there's nothing special. Just like I could get there if I wanted to. Anybody could. There's nothing special about it. It's literally just they've made probably more sacrifices than you're comfortable making. And it's that simple. And you just come to terms with that and just be cool with that. Or don't and make the sacrifices. So stop idolizing people. That was a huge one. I idolized a lot of people, looked up to like, a lot of people. And I compared a lot too. And it was almost like I less wanted to be successful. I more just wanted to not be so small in the light of the people that were in the space. And that's actually, when you really understand it, that's your motivation. It's like, that's not a good motivation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, that's going to get you just far enough that you then aren't a shrimp. And that's not a good motivation. You know what I mean? Like you're going to plateau at a really crappy spot. You just need to be legitimately motivated by just being better every single day and building cool stuff and enjoying that process and like making a ton of money. Like that's purest motivation. And I wish I back then had the self-awareness to know that my motivation was probably that. Like I probably just felt insecure that I wasn't at a certain level yet versus actually wanting to succeed. You know what I mean? But you kind of you have to go through that. Like I'm not saying if you're in that space or you were that beginner to stop working. I just in a perfect world I could go back and change my motivation there. I think it would have changed how I operate a lot. And then the last thing, I think I wish I just would have stopped overthinking like the direction I was going to go in. Like I thought about a lot of different businesses and thought about a lot of different directions, and I thought, but like you plug again, like I said, the right computer, you can run any software on it. You know what I mean? So in the same way, I made it all about the software instead of making it about the computer myself, and like being a producer in any industry. And I think some of the traits of being a producer are just like consistently showing up no matter how you feel. Simple, right? Another one is like developing deep, great relationships with high quality people, both inside your team, both as clients, both in your network. Another thing is being decisive, not like sitting on major decisions for months on end and letting them eat at you, staying in limbo, destroying your energy, right? You're in such a state of misalignment when you sit on big decisions like that. And then another thing is just like higher standard for the people that I had in my environment, like being willing to have some harder conversations much sooner, because it took me way too long to end certain relationships that I didn't need to be in or be around certain people that I didn't need to be around, that if I'd ended those sooner, I think I'd have like another 1.5 or 2 years of progress on top of what I have right now, which would be very nice. So
yeah. A lot to unpack there. I definitely can see the personal growth you've had, and just since we last spoke, which is quite a while. But that's amazing.
Getting married does that to you. Getting married does that. It's hard not to come to terms with the things that you don't like about yourself when you have somebody staring at you all day.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
You become very self-aware. Yeah.
Speaking of the market as a whole, what is the biggest opportunity you see in the marketplace, just as a whole? Doesn't have to be agency, coaching, consulting, just in general, the biggest opportunity you see at the moment?
It's so hard for me to say because I'm just so focused on my opportunity. I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm getting this thing to the next level, and so I can only speak for what I see, and what I see is my business. And I'm not just answering that in a side-handed way just to make a point. I legitimately don't know. I couldn't say. I obviously I'm biased. I think starting an information product or coaching business is in general in the 2020s one of the best things you could do. Of course, that's what we help people do. So obviously I'm biased. It help me make more money if you decide to do that and if you decide to get our help. But dude, like some of the quickest self-made millionaires are in the info space or in the coaching space. It's just like if you're trying to go from 0 to 1 million, best industry hands down. Especially if you want to do it with location freedom and everything. Like, dude, such an easy decision. I honestly I don't see anything else right now. I'm very laser focused on that. I think maybe in the future I'll try some other things, but to be honest, most people diversify way too early and they start to do multiple things too early. So just do whatever it is that you decide to do. Be the computer. Be the right computer. Don't think so much about the opportunity. You know what I mean? That's just the software. Have a good graphics card, have a good processor, have good hard drive space. Don't die every 3 days. You know, it's like that's an analogy for people like not being consistent in their work, right? And like you can make just about anything work if you're a computer. So
Love it.
yeah.
And finally, I think I already know the answer, but what is the main project you're currently working on that you're most excited for to bring to
CB
life?
2.0. CB 2.0. Getting
And
married.
do you have a timeline for us?
It's gonna be like it's gonna be releasing like it's like 40-50% completion September 1st. And then I'm gonna take everybody's feedback, have them fill out a form and everything, let me know what they think so far, and like kind of give me that input, and then finish it up based on that input, or remake the first half if need be. So yeah, just building a product that is like super solid, so I don't have to worry about fulfillment for at least 3 years. Because like if I have that space where I don't have to think about fulfillment and I can just think about company culture, scaling our brand online, doing some of these heavy lifting other things, like I'm going to buy myself a lot of time to do some very high level activities. And also that's the two birds, one stone. That's one stone, or that's one bird. The other bird is, you know, our students are going to love it. And we're going to get so many more referrals. They're going to get way better results. They're going to be able to credit us directly with those results. It's just, you know, I see my competitors on promotion cycles. They're constantly promoting, constant, every day.
Yeah.
It's ruthless, you know? And so it's just like, just build a better product, bro. And none of them do. It's all Loom recordings of Google Docs. It's so stupid. And they don't even have like any community features. Like we're going to have completely free quarterly meetups. Nobody's doing that. We're going to host them, pay for it, everything. Like, why aren't people doing that? I don't know. So to me, it's just like, it's such an obvious move. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think like one way to really peer through this industry is go follow Trey, then follow like the 3 top people in the agency coaching space and just look at the difference in what they post. Everyone's always trying to shout. And then there's just Trey making his subtle comments in the background.
Just speaking my mind, bro.
And doing it every day.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, I'm trying my best right now. It's funny. Like I've got a team inside of my company that is trying to be my voice on that platform. And I'm just like, that's like a battle. I'm like, no, it is my voice. I refuse to be a sellout to the freaking, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I gotta go, dude. I got this coaching call.
Yeah. Appreciate having you on. Congrats on getting married again. And if you guys are listening, subscribe pretty much everywhere. And I'll put Trey's links down below. Awesome having you on, and we'll chat soon, dude.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. See you.
Right. So that's a wrap for this episode. Cheers for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, I went ahead and picked another one of my videos, which you should be able to watch right now. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.